Welcome to the Plant Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
Introducing our sponsor, LAVA-LITE. Soil Restore Plus is the brown one. Soil Restore Plus is a soil conditioner and improver, ideal for use with compost and any indoor or outdoor potted plant. By offering soil aeration to improve drainage and water distribution in heavy clay soils, Soil Restore Plus reduces clay compaction, allowing those roots to seek out much-needed nutrients. Help your soil breathe again with Soil Restore Plus. Look out for it online or in your local gardening store.
Hi everyone, Ellen Mary here. So this week is my solo episode week. Yes, you know that every other episode Michael and I are let loose. And this week I have a really cracking interview for you to listen to. If you have ever heard of Secret Gardens of the Southeast, or perhaps you've read the Garden Post on Substack, or perhaps you know the renowned horticulturalist who edited the magazine Herbs for 10 years, member of the Garden Media Guild, fellow of the Chartered Institute of Horticulture, and so much more, you will guess who it is. It's Barbara Segall, and she is epic, and we have an absolutely lovely chat all about herbs and horticulture amongst other things, and it's really fabulous, so keep on listening to that. Also, some really exciting news. I'm so thrilled that we have an announcement on the podcast coming up very soon, so keep listening, about Amateur Gardening Magazine. Yes, that's right. You might already have heard the news, or you might be guessing what's about to happen, but you're going to hear from Kim Stoddart, and she is going to be telling you a little bit more about it, and we are really so excited. So here you go. Here's the episode. Happy gardening.
As you can see, I did do you a little bouquet today, so that I brought it up with me to the office.
Oh, Barbara, I'm going to take a picture of that. Can you hold it up? Because I'm going to take a picture on my camera, because that looks so beautiful. I think so. Well, Barbara has made this lovely herb bouquet, sent it to me on Instagram, and is now holding it up. Look at that, so lovely. Oh, I bet it smells divine, doesn't it?
It does. And I picked it in the dark.
Did you?
I forgot to do it earlier, so I rushed out. Sort of hoping to find things, but this is the one that I'll tell you about. That one in a bit. It's
awesome.
It's beautiful smell. Oh,
amazing. Well, Barbara, welcome so much to the podcast. I'm really excited to chat with you. I've met you many years ago, and actually you mentioned before we started recording that we actually done a live about herbs during lockdown, and that's going on towards 4 years ago now, I guess, and seen you at shows and whatnot over the years. So I'm really happy to have you here. We're going to talk about you, how you got into gardening, and we are definitely going to be talking about herbs, especially those ones sitting on your desk right now.
Yep.
Now, if everyone listening could see what I can see, you could probably take a guess at what Barbara does, because there are shelves of books and magazines behind her. But I'm going to let Barbara tell you what she does. So welcome. And can you give us a little synopsis about you, please?
Oh, thank you, Ellen Mary. I've been writing about gardens and plants for such a long time, but it all started, I think, when I was quite small, because I had really lovely granny and my mother was a green-fingered person, and so I've always been growing things. It seemed that was the first thing in my life, was wandering down to a tap where mint was growing and picking handfuls of it. And my granny made mint sauce and, put it with wonderful food. And it was just gorgeous. But I started my life as a journalist. And then I came to live in England. I grew up in South Africa. And I came to live in England in the 70s. And I just couldn't get a proper job as a journalist. So I did all sorts of things. And in the mid-70s, I think, or early 80s, the BBC announced that it was going to really beef up its gardening thing. And I thought, that's me. And I didn't get onto the BBC at all, but I started writing then. And there were many more magazines than, we've got now. And so, I started writing. And the books that you can see behind me that are so untidy, the whole room, wall to wall, there's hardly any more space in it. But it's the reason that you can work from home in a way. You don't have to go to a library. You have everything at your fingertips.
I feel like I definitely want to come there sometime. I'm literally inviting myself around your house right now, by the way. But I kind of feel like I need to see all those books for real. It's like a lovely library of gardening and plants.
I know. And I just, I love it. I love being in the room. There's a lot of untidiness, though. When I know you're coming, I shall do a big, deep tidy.
Don't do that for me. My place is just untidy. I'd love to know what it was like growing up in South Africa, how before you came to England in the 70s, what was it like gardening-wise in South Africa?
Well, my mum and dad always had lovely gardens. They weren't huge, but because Durban, where we grew up, it's on the it's on the Indian Ocean, so it's sort of subtropical. So the fruits were things like pawpaws, papaya, pineapples. The earth was a kind of reddish color. It was really rich and fertile. And my mother used to plant hedges of a plant called a califer, which the leaves are all multicolored, and here we've got these sort of rather plain green hedges, but we had these vibrant colored hedges. I just adored them. And I used to love looking at them because they had so many beautiful patterns on them. And it was like sort of looking at fabric. So that was sort of an early thing with the gardens. Oh, I can also remember finding a chameleon on one of the plants.
Oh,
wow. The insects and the animals, the invertebrates and whatever, were just so different. I'm not going to mention the snakes because they were not my favorite things.
No, I'm with you on that. Since I've been in North Carolina, I have never been exposed to, venomous snakes ever before. And I am genuinely paranoid about it. And I joined a Facebook group to identify snakes so I could learn. And every single day posts come up and someone's like, found this snake in Charlotte or found a snake here, can you ID? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just so scary. But I'm convinced now that I would be able to identify many more snakes than I would have before, which makes you feel like you have a little bit of knowledge and therefore control over what would be the best course of action, like run.
Absolutely. That's my first course of action, is just get out of the way. Yeah. We also had wonderful trees, big sort of indigenous trees that were like big shade trees, and canners. You know how we all love canners in England. Yeah. There they were municipal roadside plantings, and I used to get so bored with them, but I love seeing them now. And there was one in particular which I loved, and of course it's called Canna Durban.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and so I grow that one because it makes me feel that I've got a little link to the hometown.
That's really lovely. When you see it, it just must remind you of your childhood. Isn't it funny also how different countries plant like agapanthus in Australia is like an invasive weed, but here we love to grow agapanthus, don't we? So it's quite amazing the differences.
Change. Well, we loved it. We love it in South Africa as well, and in the Cape, I think they've got so many species, and there's one that's called Inert, and it's got really droopy flower heads. And when I've been to Kirstenbosch on different occasions, just seeing the hummingbirds going in to feed on it, just magical. So, every plant has got something extra to offer you, really.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more, especially herbs, which we will talk about very soon, because they have a lot to offer you, that is for sure. So what took you to journalism? What was your drive to become a journalist?
Well, I don't know. I used to write little book reviews for our children's library when I was a kid, sort of really pompous little reviews of books and sort of, this is a good book. And and I just enjoyed doing it. But I thought I was going to be a teacher, and that's really what my aim had been. And then when I got to it, I thought, oh no, I don't think I could deal with a room full of kids. So I thought, what else can I do? And I managed to get onto a journalism cadet course. So my local newspaper sent us to another part of the country, and we did shorthand and legal work and all the things that journalists pick up. And then I came back to Durban, and I was the most lowly reporter on the paper. And my beat was crime, fire, and accident. And the only people who read it, I think, were my parents and the perpetrators and the victims. Anyway, I sort of graduated from that onto the women's pages, which was such fun because you got feature writing experience there. And we used to have, Durban was a big port, and the Union Castle boats, which we called the mail boats, because they would bring all the magazines and the mail from England to South Africa. And so when the mail boats came in, they used to have what we thought of as great celebrities, but they were probably minor celebrities from England, and I would get sent out to interview them.
Wow.
So I got this cuttings book of sort of strange people that I interviewed. And that's when I thought, actually, I'm going to leave on one of these boats one day. And I did in 1970. All my world goods in the hold of the ship, and off I went.
Wow, it's amazing. What made you you just decided that you wanted to get over to England and progress your journalism career?
Yes, I think so. And also, politically, South Africa was not a happy place at that time. It was apartheid was part of the political mix, or not mix. It was just the politics was that. And I wasn't, it didn't sit with me. And I didn't really believe that it would change in my lifetime. And it has changed. Yeah. It's still not perfect. There's lots that needs to be changed, but that part of it has changed. And for that, I'm very grateful. So I feel I can go back, and I do go back. I've still got cousins who live there. But it's, also it's so far away. But so from England and the continent, and really that's where I wanted to be, was for me, this is where things are.
Well, we're very happy in horticulture that you did make that journey, because you are a very well-known and respected horticulturalist and author and writer, especially when it comes to herbs. I particularly, can I just say, you've got one that you cannot wait to talk about. I can't wait either. Before we get to herbs, I'd love to just talk about some of the books that you've written, because obviously you've traveled a lot as well. I can see a book behind you because I can't see all of the names on the books, but I can see Japan, for example, where I have never been, and I would love to go one day.
Oh, well, you must get your co-podcast person, Michael Perry, to introduce you to the wonderful school, Barakura, the Barakura English Garden School. Yeah. And that's the reason I went to Japan. And I went in, I think it was 2018 or 2019, so it was pre-COVID. And Japan is wonderful. I felt so sorry that I'd left it late in my life to go. So don't leave it too late, just go. It's mind-blowing. The horticulture and what they do, how they prop plants up, how they kind of venerate old plants. They really look after them. And, how we get sort of annoyed if we've got bamboo that's growing wild and taking over the place. But there they've got bamboo temples, where you can walk in this bamboo forest, and it just looked amazing. Yeah. And they use bamboo, which they've cut as in extraordinary ways, fencing, and they make mats obviously from it, all sorts of things. So I'd go back again if I could.
One day. Can I tag along? Like, if you're going to the Bakura English Garden School to do anything, I could just be your helper. Like, if you'd like me to bring you cups of tea or, just hand you plants, that's fine. I can do that.
You'd be soaring there. You would be in your element. You'd love it.
Well, do you a lot of your books are linked to travel, so that might be gardens or in general. You've written quite a few books, haven't you? How many are you at now?
I've written 13 books. 13, and I feel I must do another one to get away from 13, but
you don't want to be left with that number.
But I haven't got anything on the stocks. I've got things in my mind, but you said something, I think, on one of your Instagram posts today about giving yourself time to think about things. So I've been giving myself time to think about things for about a year. I haven't got very far. Nothing.
You have to trust. You have to trust yourself that it will come at some point. You're right. It can be really frustrating because when we're really busy and we don't have time to think, we're frustrated that we're busy and we don't have time to think. And then we take time to think, and then we get frustrated that we're taking time to think, but the thoughts aren't coming yet. But it's that bit that you have to not be conscious of. Do you know what I mean? It has just keep on taking your time, because it will happen, eventually something will come to you.
I will let you know when it does.
I hope it's tomorrow.
That would be nice.
Tell us about your last book, your latest book. That's the Gardens of the South, Secret Gardens of the Southeast. Am I correct? There we go. Secret Gardens of the Southeast, a private tour. I'm very lucky enough to have a copy of that book, and it is so beautiful, so beautiful. And you get to go to all of the gardens.
I know, it's the nicest form of nosiness for me. If you were a nosy Parker and you like looking over the fence at other people's houses and gardens, this is just the best. No, I feel really fortunate because people are so generous with their time, and they walk you around the garden and tell you all the stories about it, and it's just lovely putting that together. And it's quite hard sometimes because it's like in that book there were 20 gardens, and it's like writing 20 garden articles.
Yeah.
But you have to sort of find the essence of each garden and try and make it so that it stands out from the others. And that sometimes, as we both said, sometimes you have to walk away from the desk.
Right.
Go somewhere, I go out to our water meadows and walk around, and the thoughts do come, and then it you don't feel as if you're working, but in fact you are.
Yeah, absolutely. That time out is still working in a different way, at the end of the day, especially when you're a writer. I can definitely say that it's a wonderful book. The photographs are great, and you really do kind of bring it alive, each garden alive. Like, you feel like you, as a reader, that you can feel like you are walking through the garden. And there's some of those gardens that I've never heard of, and I genuinely would love to visit. And some of them, they do open up for like National Garden Scheme, that kind of thing as well, don't they? So you can get an opportunity to go.
That's right. Most of them open at least one day a year, but they're not all National Garden Scheme gardens. But what we did was we decided not to include National Trust gardens, not because they're not wonderful, but just because they've got their own directory and their own sort of assets in a way. Yeah. And if it included them, you wouldn't include anything else because, they are pretty good, amazing. But for me, it was also, the word secret in the title. A lot of people say, well, these aren't all secret gardens. But as I live in Suffolk and I was going southeast, some of them were pretty secret to me because I hadn't been there like you. So, I thought, well, these are my first time. Some of them I knew from the past, but many of them were new to me. And
what you just said is actually is true. When I was in Sydney, there's a garden called this Wendy's Secret Garden. I think it's called Wendy's Secret Garden. It's in a place called Lavender Bay, and I was like, oh, I love a secret garden, like, because you feel like it's like you're going there and it's only you who knows about it. Well, if something is actually out there advertised as a secret garden, then it's not a secret garden, right? But I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to go there. And I went to a garden, it was packed full. It wasn't such a secret, but it was stunning. Like, it was absolutely amazing. I had a wonderful time. But when I came away from it, I actually said to my husband, it wasn't really very secret. He said just what you said, but did you know about it? And I was like, not until I went. He went, well, there you go. It was a secret. So I did it, I was like, oh yeah, yeah. I see what you mean. Anyway, the book's amazing. Where can listeners purchase it from?
Oh, well, I think from the Francis Lincoln Quarto website, you can go to that link, but also Amazon. It's very much on Amazon in America as well as here. And yeah, it's still out there.
Good. So, it's a great Christmas present for people. We've got Christmas coming up. Gardeners would love gardening books. So let's talk about herbs. You were an editor, weren't you, of the Herbs magazine for the Herb Society for quite some years. And
indeed, and I think I edited the magazine for two sets of time, each 10 years, but with a sort of space in between. And I stopped working for the Herb Society when I knew I was doing that book, The Secret Gardens of the Southeast, because I knew that there was going to be this travel of going to Surrey, Sussex and Kent. And it's sort of hard to schedule your life. You know what it's like when you're in several places. And I just thought, no, I can't do something that has to be done regularly. So I decided that it was better to do the book at the time. And then, of course, we got the pandemic and I couldn't go out and do the book for about 8 months. So that was a bit of a miscalculation.
Glad that you got there in the end, though.
Yeah, that's right. No, it was wonderful. And
what do herbs mean to you? Obviously you grow lots of them because you know a lot about herbs, and you have a bouquet literally sitting on your desk in front of you. But why herbs? Why are herbs so important to you?
Just because they lift your cooking. What they can add to any dish, flavor-wise and color-wise. If you're picking little calendulas to use the petals, or chive flowers to use in salads, you get that extra crunch and color, and it just enlivens everything. But not only that, in the garden they're attractive plants to have, and that's what I love about them. So at the moment, one of the things that's doing so well, which is unusual, is sweet Sicily, which is that's picked. It's I don't understand. Well, I suppose we haven't had a frost, but as soon as we do have a frost, that will be damaged. So what I should do is I should pick it and freeze it, so that when rhubarb comes along next year, when the sweet Sicily is not up, it never ever coincides with the rhubarb. But it's wonderful to use as a acid reducing addition because I don't like adding sugar to things. So. This is my sugar substitute in a way, because it reduces the sharpness of I just thought that was a ladybird that I brought in, but I hadn't.
It's always bugs when you bring in plants. I grew sweet Sicily for the first year. I think I like last year in the herb patch on my allotment, and it's so beautiful, and I love the flowers as well. And then when I was speaking at Malvern, Mark Diacono came onto the stage, and he was saying about putting sweet Sicily into vodka, so infuse it in vodka. And I haven't done it yet, but I really wish that I had done it. It sounded amazing, and he said it tastes absolutely phenomenal. So there you go.
And people also do eat it. I mean, it has got a sort of, as a salad, It has got a sort of aniseed flavour to it. Well, that's a very good idea, and I love Mark's books. So, and I have got his one on herbs. So I think I might have to rush out. I'm very close to a certain shop here, Waitrose. I think I might have to rush out to Waitrose tomorrow morning and buy some vodka and put my sweet Sicily into it and check for.
I think it's worth a try, and you can report back, because I forgot to do it. And I really wish that I had done it. So I will wait to hear what you've got to say about it.
I'll do a little bottle, so when you come and visit the books, you can have some sweet Sicily vodka.
I love this episode so much already.
Hello, Michael and Ellen. I'm really delighted to be here on your excellent podcast, telling you about the all-new relaunched Amateur Gardening magazine, which is coming back. It's back from next week on the newsstands, and I'm very proud to be talking to you as the new editor of the magazine. It's the world's oldest gardening magazine, for those of you that don't know, and I'm the 12th editor. The magazine went under to a flurry of dismay and sadness in the media back in September. There was an absolute outpouring of love and nostalgia for the magazine, and the publisher Kelsey decided to purchase the magazine. So it's back. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. We have really exciting content. The magazine is going to be bigger. There's going to be more pages of content. We're going to have a double packet of seed on the cover. And we're also going to be looking at lots of ideas around future-proofing gardens, resilience, well-being, and just very much looking forward to the future. So it is an absolute pleasure to be at the helm of the magazine. And of course, we also have the fantastic Michael doing a column as well, which is looking at plant trends and plant watch within the magazine. But Amateur Gardening magazine is a magazine for the people. It is for the people. It is for gardeners everywhere. The idea of amateur in itself just means non-professional gardener, but we are all custodians, proud custodians of our gardens, our allotments, our windowsill gardens, wherever it is we garden. And we're very much all in this together for the future. So it's going to be full of personality, full of expert advice, lots of the regular columnists, but also lots of new as well. So I'm very, very excited about this, and I can't wait to share it with you next week.
What else do you have in your bouquet there?
Well, I've got fennel, which, fennel. I've got the green fennel, but I've also got a purple fennel growing near it. And this is just looking wonderful at the moment. I cut it really hard back it got very leggy and set seed, and I saved the seed. I use it in cooking and all sorts of things as well. And it's just sprouted. It's about 10 inches high now, sort of giving these lovely little shoots. So I made a risotto this evening, and so I added fennel to the risotto, and it just gives it another little kick of flavour, which I love. And what else have I brought? Well, the one that I want to tell you about most of all is this little one, which is a basil, and it's African blue basil. You can see how blue it is on the new leaves.
Yes, wonderful.
And the stems are gorgeous, and it is so pungent. It just, if you could smell it.
I was going to say, I feel I can smell it from here. I mean, I'd like to be able to smell it. It's a beautiful colour, and that's something also, like herbs aren't just medicinal, used for, culinary purposes, great for pollinators, but they can look so beautiful, so many different colours, and that has a really lovely deep purpley on the new leaves at the top. Did you say the stem is the same colour?
The stem has got a purple hue to it as well.
Beautiful.
And it is so easy to root. I will go downstairs, cut off this bit because this full of sort of not be so, it's a bit woody, but I'll cut it down to there and just put it in water. And in about 3 or 4 days, there'll be roots coming out of it. And then I can just pot it up. And in fact, this is from one that I potted up just a few weeks ago, and it's in the greenhouse at the moment. So I get them, keep them through the winter as well. Lovely. Because a girl can't really be too far away from a basil, I don't think.
I love that. Can't be too far away from a basil. Okay.
So that's why I do that. And what you said about colour is so true. I've brought in a little thyme, and you may not be able to see it, but it's quite silvery.
Yeah.
And of course, thyme has got they're very green foliage, and there's one that's almost a purple color to the leaves. It's one of the creeping ones, and the flowers of that are really purpley mauve. So it's as if the leaves have taken on the hue of the flowers as well. Mm. And, and also they've all got different habits. Some of them grow upright, some of them creep or grow, flat. It's just such a variety of things you can do. And of course, you mentioned Mark, and he and Jekka McVicker, who's all, amazing herb grower. And I think this is the one, picking it in the dark, I couldn't read the label, but this, I think, is the rosemary, which is called green ginger, which does actually have a gingery flavour to it.
That's incredible.
I just need to tidy my keyboard because it's getting a lot of herbs on it.
I have to say, on my allotment, I've got like a patch in front of the greenhouse where I'd planted out, when I first took over the plot, I planted the herbs that I had in my gardening pots. And then the other half is kind of, it's mainly annual cut flowers. And then there's the greenhouse. And I didn't really plan it. I just thought, right, I need to get these plants in the ground because I've got a lot to do to get the allotment going. And I haven't had to do a great deal more with it. It is the most productive part of the allotment. It's the most beautiful part. It's textured. The colours are beautiful. The fragrances are amazing. People come along to the plot and say, wow, that looks, that area there looks just absolutely beautiful. You can stand and look down it, and there's all the different sages and different thymes and oregano and chives, all sweet Sicily, yes, fennel and dill, all kinds of different things just growing in there. But and some of them have spread a little bit too much. I do need to cut back somewhat, but it just looks wonderful. So creating a herb garden is really quite easy, isn't it? Really, like working with herbs, growing herbs is really a very easy thing to do.
It's definitely an easy win because, as you say, they grow so quickly. They just want to, push and shove with each other and keep growing. And the other things there are some annual things like summer savory, which is another lovely sort of pungent herb, and I do sow that annually. But there's a winter savory, and this one's a bit past it. But even so, if you put it into a muslin bag, into a casserole of vegetables, or whatever you might be cooking, that will be give a huge flavour, and it's evergreen. So I've got to cut mine back so that I get new shoots. I think I might have left it a bit late this year.
But that's the thing also, so many are evergreen, and then there's the flowers and the seeds. So many herbs that we can actually eat the seeds as well, and they taste amazing. Pollen, like that area I was just saying on the plot, is always full of pollinators early through to autumn, it's just abundant with life. So if there's anything, if anyone's thinking of gardening or starting to grow their own, I would 100% recommend herbs.
Oh, I'm with you there. I think it's wonderful. And what you said about the seeds, I used to just dry the seeds, like coriander seeds. I would just dry them and then be able to crush them with mushrooms and all sorts of things. But I then started to use them when they were green, and the flavour when they're green is just astonishingly strong. So, I don't dry them all now. And it's just you learn as you go what's going to work and what will be better to use.
Yeah, totally. Also, I've grown some herbs as microgreens, So
yeah.
I've done coriander, fenugreek, because I know you'd mentioned them before. I did do basil. I can't remember what else. So I just sowed them, in a tray of compost, a very, very fine layer of compost on top. And then they really didn't, they say to cut microgreens when they get to no more than 10 centimeters, but I don't think these even got that to 10 centimeters, maybe 5 or 6, maybe 5 or maybe 4. I don't know, but anyway, quite small. And I cut them. And the flavors were so intense, like unbelievably intense.
Just in those first leaves,
just in those tiny little leaves, they were incredible for cooking. And I dried some of them, so I actually dried them out and then crushed them, and that made amazing flavoursome herby kind of powder that you could use in dishes if you wanted. I will just say that because the flavour was so intense, I definitely had to use less than I did to begin with. I was like, whoa, that tasted pretty strong. But that's a really easy, quick way to grow goodness and as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that was one of the things I did do in lockdown. I mean, I think we all did here, and probably wherever you had the good fortune to have a space to grow things. I did pick herbs and freeze them. Although I had them fresh in the garden, it was a sort of insurance policy in case something happened. At least I had them. But, I didn't need to. But I keep finding these sort of little strange little packets in the freezer. I think
unlabeled, what did I put that there for? Do you have a favourite herb, like an overall all-time favourite herb that you could absolutely not be without?
Well, there are 2. Am I allowed 2?
Yes, okay.
Well, basil is definitely one, as I've said, because apart from the African blue basil, I do sow loads and loads of different flavoured basils, purple ones, big Neapolitan leaves, the tiny Greek leafed one, and purple basil. And I also came across, I've been buying as a plant from a herb nursery called Pepperpot Herbs. I've been buying a variegated green and white basil, which is called pesto, very helpfully. And it does have that smell of pesto. It's just beautiful. So basil is number 1, and equal is chervil, which is quite hard to buy as a plant. But out in my garden, it is very generously self-sown, like a forest. I'm set. But what happens every year is that it does set seed, and it's such a lovely herb. It's feathery, like sweet Cicely's foliage, but it's aniseed. And if you have that in an omelette or with cheese, any dish like that, it just sets it off.
Oh, wow, that's lovely. I don't think I've ever grown chervil before that I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I have. My latest favourites are the orange and lemon thyme, which I think are really beautiful. And probably maybe 3 years or so, I planted a oregano hot and spicy. And I thought, really, is this going to be any different to regular oregano? Because sometimes kind of the new breeding doesn't quite hit the mark. Do you know what I mean? But actually, it really is hot and spicy, but it doesn't last. So if you are someone that doesn't like hot and spicy food for your digestion, for example, this would be perfect, because you get the hot spicy to begin with, and then it just dissipates. So you're not left with that like burning mouth at all. That's a really nice one. It has now, I think this year would have been the 3rd year, and it definitely doesn't still have that, you can tell that it is hot and spicy, but it doesn't have such strength in it after about 3 years as it did to begin with.
Is that in the US or is that in
the UK? Yeah, in the UK.
Did you sow it or did you buy it as a plant?
I bought it as a plant. Yeah. But I love it. It is absolutely great. It's really good for cooking. And actually, when you cook it, it seems to bring the heat out a little bit more. So that's a really nice one. Yeah, and I'm completely taken by the orange and lemon thymes at the moment. They're beautiful.
They're gorgeous. Yeah. No, I think we're spoiled for choice, and we do have some lovely things to add flavor. And, I know you use a lot of things medicinally as well. I'm not skilled or trained enough, but I just know that they're healthy.
Yes, sometimes that's all you need to know, isn't it? I'm growing herbs because they look great, they smell great, they're great for pollinators and wildlife overall. They're easy to grow. I can use them when I cook, and they're medicinal. But you don't actually necessarily have to go down that route to know that when you eat them, you're doing your body some good. Sometimes that's all you need to know.
That's right, and just, I suppose, crushing some lavender foliage in your hands, or, you be transported to the south of France and you just feel that you're on holiday already.
Just like uplifting. There is one herb, and that is sage, that I have a huge, big sage forest on my allotment. Definitely needs a little bit of taming, but I'm not keen on the smell of it. And people say, how can you not love the smell of sage? But sometimes find that one a bit overpowering.
No, it's a very strong herb, I think. I use it really sparingly, but I tell you what I have discovered is that if you add a tempura, if you add it tempura and deep fry it, it's quite delicious.
That's an idea.
That's something nice to do with it. Okay. But it is very, very strong. But what I tend to do, because I've got several growing in the garden, is I just love leaving them to flower. And then, as you say, the pollinators that come, it's just magic watching them and, seeing how rich it is for pollinators.
Yeah.
But no, it's a hard herb to use, I think. So I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Some can be too strong.
Yeah, nice to touch. I love the leaves. Like the texture is really lovely, quite tactile, but just a little in cooking is enough for me. I think my all-time favorite is probably chamomile. For all of it, all of the plant, in teas, or maybe making little pouches with lavender for like sleep, that kind of thing. I love doing that. Chamomile is definitely my favorite. And I love the little flowers, the little daisy-shaped flowers as well.
For teas and things, I love using lemon verbena, and
that's a good one.
Fresh or dried. And that's really, I've got a little packet of it dried, which I must remember to use before it becomes dust.
Don't forget, I love lemon verbena much more than lemon balm, I must say.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I remember using lemon balm. I haven't got it growing in this garden, but in my previous garden I had it, and it is such a thug in the garden. If it gets going, it just kind of goes, I want this whole space, go away.
And it just pops up everywhere. It's just like, how did you get over there when I planted you all the way over there? It is a bit of a thug, but it's a herb. I love all plants, as do you, I'm absolutely sure. I'd love to know, Barbara, what your garden is like. Give us a picture of your garden before we finish up for the episode.
Well, it's small. It's the house is about 50 feet wide and the garden is about 40 foot wide. Yeah. It's one of those gardens that the path must have come out of the kitchen door at one time and just gone straight up the garden. I'm very lucky. I've got a brick wall on two sides and the other side is a wooden fence. And when I came, so it's 44 feet wide and 88 feet long. So it's a rectangular shape. And when I came, there were loads of terrible conifers growing in it. The person who had it before me wanted to be very private, so they grew all these conifers, and they used it as a putting green, and they just whacked golf balls. So the perimeter was full of golf balls at one time. Anyway, got all the conifers taken down, and and there was a little lawn, but not very useful. And I'm not a lawn person. So there is no lawn now. It's just packed with plants, and 3 raised beds, mostly herbs, tiniest but perfectly formed Hartley Botanic greenhouse, which at the moment is stuffed with things that are overwintering or going to overwinter, and cuttings. And yeah, roses, 2 other raised beds. You know those ones that are corrugated metal?
Yes. Yeah.
Allotment. They're brilliant. So I've got 2 of those, and I've got the most wonderful kale forest.
Kale forest. That sounds magical to me.
It's the perennial kale, Dorbenton's kale, and so I just love growing it. And I took a photograph of it earlier today. I'll probably put it up somewhere tomorrow. I just can't believe that it's survived cabbage white butterfly caterpillars, drought, rain. I think there was another bit of pestilence that it had this year that I can't remember what it was. I mean, I put all sorts of covers over it, but I think I trapped more butterflies inside. So I had to let them all out, but they'd laid their eggs anyway. But, it's looking so healthy. So I do stir fry it, and I've not actually ever used it in a, what are they called, a smoothie or anything like that. But, there's lots of ways to experiment with it.
Yeah. I love kale. Is probably one of my top vegetables to grow. And here, when I'm in the US and I'm not growing it, it's always top of my shopping list. I put it in everything. So I will smoothie it. I put it in a smoothie. I just put it in a soup. If I just chop it up, I love it crispy. So, if you just put it in the oven with a little bit of oil and paprika on it or something and just have like kale crisps, I love that. It's like my favorite pre-dinner snack. I love kale.
When you use it as a smoothie, do you cut the strong midrib of the leaves out?
So when I'm using it as a smoothie, I don't cut that out because it's just going to blend it up anyway, and there's still plenty of nutrition in that. But if I'm making a kale salad, and then I do tend to cut the big thick stem out of the middle because it's just not so nice to munch on raw. Although I did see somebody who cut out the middle and then they chopped them up and used them in like hummus dips. So yeah, you can use all of it, but in smoothies, I just chuck it all in. Yeah.
It's powerful blending. Very good idea. I'll get round to that eventually then. But yeah, I just love using it and seeing it looking so healthy and happy.
Yeah. Well, I bet your garden looks wonderful.
Well, at the moment, it's these lovely autumn yellows of the foliage. And I put up some pictures on Instagram today, which were a sort of rush around the garden before I took this friend to hospital. And I've got a mulberry tree in the garden, which is called a zigzag mulberry. And it grows like that, and then it zigzags back. So the stem is sort of in a zigzag shape. And it's against an acer that's just butter yellow at the moment. And it just looks so gorgeous.
A true autumn garden. I'm literally now looking up your Instagram. Here we go. A quick photo rush around the garden to catch yellow and gold, magenta and pink hues of my own garden autumn display. That looks absolutely beautiful. Oh, and the berries as well. That's absolutely wonderful.
That's a little crabapple called Alice transitoria, and it's got these tiny little yellow berries, and the birds tend not to eat them. I don't think they like yellow, and so they stay on the tree really a long time.
They might think that they're not ripe. So I found that some if it's a berry that doesn't turn a typical color like red or perhaps like a dark bluey purple, sometimes the birds stay away from them because I think they don't think that they're quite ripe, perhaps. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know enough about birds, but I do find that sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure you're onto something there. They leave it. I mean, my neighbour's got a holly tree, which that's my borrowed tree. And I do spend a lot of time going out and shooing pigeons off it because by the end of this week, there will be no berries on it. Yeah. And I don't think they eat them. I think they just knock them off.
Yeah. Probably just play with them, have a little game of like volleyball or something.
That's right. They're all on the ground.
Well, for anyone listening, if you would like to follow Barbara online, it's Barbara Segall. That's Segall. Loads of really lovely photographs, and your garden does look really beautiful. And also, you can find Barbara's books on, and also your writing on Substack. That's the Garden Post, isn't it? Have I got that right?
I started a blog as the Garden Post quite a long time ago, but then this platform Substack sort of occurred, and there are a lot of people. Michael's on it, lots of people on. I haven't monetized my newsletter, as it were, because I'm so irregular. I couldn't ask people to pay for it because they're not getting money's worth yet, but I may do eventually. And it's really nice writing it and doing it. And then also in December, I usually write about herbs every day in December, because I do get the December blues, I think. When it's worse in February, but I start thinking about it in December. And so I try to write about herbs every day and pop that on Instagram. And then I collect all the little Instagram posts and put them into a Substack newsletter.
That's a really nice idea.
My winter beating strategy.
It's like winter writing therapy.
Right.
Yeah, it's lovely. There's loads of information, lots of photographs and great info. So that's the Garden Post on Substack for listeners. Barbara, thank you so much for spending some time during your evening chatting with me for the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope that it's inspired people at home to go and try some new herbs and to grow something new. We mentioned quite a few places that you can get herbs from. So you've mentioned pepper pot herbs. Who else did you say? Who did we say?
Checker McVicker.
Of course. I also bought some herbs recently from Victoriana Nursery, which was really good. And Urban Herbs as well, which kind of newer, I guess, on the scene. They've been around for a few years now, but you can buy some herbs there. There's lots of different places on there.
And there's Norfolk Herbs.
Norfolk Herbs. How could I forget Norfolk Herbs when I live in Norfolk? Norfolk Herbs do a really, really good variety of different herbs there as well too. So there's loads of places, and try something new. Like we all know about rosemary and and sage and oregano, but there's loads of different herbs. So have a go at growing them too.
That's right. And just to mention one, I bought this from a herb grower in the what do they call it? Hook's Green Herbs, and they're in Cheshire. And it's when I bought it, it was about 10 inches high, and it's a Szechuan pepper tree.
Oh wow, wonderful!
Amazing thorns on it, but it is growing in the ground outside, and it's about 10 or 12 foot high now. And I get a little harvest each year of Szechuan pepper, which is wonderful.
That's incredible! All the things you can grow in your garden. Don't you just love plants?
What's not to love?
What's not to love? Thank you so much, Barbara. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And everyone go follow Barbara. See what she's up to in the garden. Learn lots about herbs and go buy the book.
Thank you. I've loved talking to you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for having me.
Introducing our sponsor, LAVA-LITE. Soil Restore Plus is the brown one. Soil Restore Plus is a soil conditioner and improver, ideal for use with compost and any indoor or outdoor potted plant. By offering soil aeration to improve drainage and water distribution in heavy clay soils, Soil Restore Plus reduces clay compaction, allowing those roots to seek out much-needed nutrients. Help your soil breathe again with Soil Restore Plus. Look out for it online or in your local gardening store. The music for the Plant Based Podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.